Funcom 511 computer, there exists an unknown civilization which man is about to enter. A startling new world where time and distance defy the laws of logic. Tron.
I 1982 udkom Steven Spielbergs Tron, og filmlandskabet ændrede sig for evigt. Det var den første spillefilm nogensinde, som bød på udpræget brug af computereffekter, og flere af vores tids største blockbuster havde formentlig aldrig eksisteret, hvis det ikke havde været for Spielbergs genistreg. Filmen var forud for sin tid og blev et lille flop, men selvom Trons fanskare ikke ligefrem er enorm, har Disney alligevel haft så stor tiltro til franchisen, at de har spyttet mere end 1 milliard kroner i fortsættelsen Tron Legacy. I den første film spillede Jeff Bridges tekniknørden Kevin Flynn, som blev suget ind i en computerverden, hvor kilobytes var omdannet til personer, motorcykler og kæmpe bygningsværker. I toeren rejser Flynns søn, Sam, ind i computeruniverset for at finde sin far, som har været forsvundet i 20 år. Tron Legacy har biografpremierer på torsdag, og i forbindelse med filmens premiere var Filmz TV i Paris for at tale med skuespillerne Olivia Wilde og Jeff Bridges, samt flere af filmens bagmænd, det er blandt filmens debuterende instruktør, Joseph Kosinski.
This is your first feature film, and it's a huge production. It's got a huge budget. Wasn't that a daunting task?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot to live up to with that first film. You know, we knew we were going to have to push it in different ways. Push it creatively with the story, push it technically with the using the latest technology, and hopefully create something visually that looked like nothing else. So the pressure was to live up to the legacy of the first film. We showed that test clip at Comic-Con a couple years ago, and the reaction of the fans, not only in Hall H, but all the people online who saw that kind of leaked video, helped get this movie made.
And it's a movie that's so stylish, that's so incredibly beautiful, and of course the style is really important. But how do you prevent that from overshadowing the story? Isn't that a kind of a tightrope you have to walk?
Absolutely. I mean, to keep that balance was critical to all of us. And I think this movie was developed in an interesting way where Joe, myself, the writers, and a couple of other colleagues, we really built everything together from the ground up because we knew the story had to be completely integrated into the visuals and vice versa. So it wasn't built in a traditional write your script, then hire your director, then make a movie. It was really built everybody building it from square one.
I loved the soundtrack by Daft Punk. It was really great. It really surprised me how much they used orchestral music, and I love that. It kind of hovers between the electric world and the real world, sort of like the movie, so in that way it reflects the movie really well. But was that something you pushed them to do, or did they automatically say we want to have orchestral pieces, because ordinarily they're much more electronical?
That was a shared desire from the very initial meeting. We had this long discussion about our favorite composers, from John Williams to Wendy Carlos, and the whole gamut of range from pure orchestral to pure electronic, and we all saw an opportunity to make a classic film score, but that blended the orchestra and electronic in a really interesting way that would be unique to Daft Punk. And I think they were intrigued by the idea of pushing their music to a place that maybe people wouldn't expect from them.
I'm looking for zoos. Indeed. Many are. Where can I find them? This, pretty miss, is a conversation best had behind closed doors. Perhaps we should retire to my private lounge. Oh, I designed it myself, It's true. I'm stepping away for a moment, boys. Change the scheme, alter the mood. Electrify the boys and girls, if you'd be so kind.
Can you give us a hint at what they look like without their helmets on?
They could be, yeah, but one of the things that's fun is they've been at a couple of events that, no one is aware they're there. So we kind of like to keep the mystery because they could be sitting next to you in the theater, and that's kind of fun.
I also love being an old gamer when you move through the arcade. I remembered a lot of the sounds from Donkey Kong, from the barrels, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
How meticulous were you in creating all the details of the 80s and also of the computer world itself?
Well, I'm glad you noticed that, because we had a lot of sound designers at Skywalker who went out and went in the field to all those machines to record all those different sounds, and then the licensing people at Disney had to clear every single title, every single sound that comes out of each of those machines. I mean, to get that authentic sound in the arcade, it took a lot of work.
I also love this idea of the real world being in 2D, because when you're then sucked into the computer world, it really blows your mind. Was that a fight you had to take with the studio to make the whole movie a 3D event?
No, I mean, I think they understood conceptually why we made that choice. You know, I referred to Wizard of Oz as an example of a film where they had the capability to do the whole movie in color, but they shot the first 20 minutes in black and white and saved the color for the moment that Dorothy steps into Land of Oz. So that was kind of the same argument I made here, and I think they were totally supportive of that fact. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You still leave room for a sequel, of course. Is there anything in the pipelines, or are you totally focused on your remake of The Black Hole?
We've talked about some ideas and kicked some things around, but yeah, as you say, it's a big world, Tron. So if the audience is into it, certainly we've got a couple of places where it might be interesting to go explore.
De Oscar-nominerede kostymer i den første Tron er nogle af de mest ikoniske af slagsen. Den franske technoduo Daft Punk har endda baseret sit look på dem. Det var blandt andet op til kostymedesigneren Christine Beaslin Clark at opdatere kostymernes look i Tron Legacy.
This was the first order of business, was to figure out how we would light up these suits, because it was all done in camera on every single costume. They had to be able to do the stunts in them and move in them. It had to stay lit for 90 days on location. So we went to a bunch of FX houses in Los Angeles, and Quantum Creation Effects actually found this company that was making these little tiny, flexible kind of lights. And we went to them and had them perfect their technology for Tron. So this has never been seen before on camera anywhere.
What else is this? You have some of the fabric.
I have some of the fabric. I mean, this is, you know, really you need something that can live on the body, is washable, is stretchy, flexible, but then we added a design element to it, which is this hexagon print, which is the building block of Tron. Everything is based on this shape, and that's our DNA, so of course that went on the body as well.
Cool. Well, being a huge fan of the original and also the new film now, I gotta ask, is it possible for a guy like me to design one of these shirts, or how much do I have to pay you to get a custom-made one?
You can always try, but I think to get it to light up, you might have a little bit more difficulty.
Tron-universet er også spækket med ikoniske køretøjer, som for eksempel de futuristiske lyscykler. De super seje maskiner måtte også opdateres i Tron Legacy, og flere nye køretøjer skulle også designes, så derfor hyrede Kosinski den visionære bildesigner Daniel Simon, som er kendt for sine futuristiske designs for sit eget selskab, Cosmic Motors, som blandt andet har den legendariske designer Sid Mead som fan.
I think it's kind of every boy's dream somehow. You know, you sit at school and draw your little things and you think like, later I have to make a living and how does that work? But, you know, you can get lucky, and I became a car designer. But I thought there was a little more fantasy to it. So it really worked out with this film that they were looking for specialists for certain things. So they hired fashion designers for the outfits. They hired architects for the buildings. And this is how a vehicle designer ends up on a film like this. There's always this look for what can we make different. I'm never happy with what I see. I always think like there must be something else. So, but the thing is, you can't go too different. People still need to recognize something. And this is also the reason why things in Tron world are actually very recognizable. You know, the light cycles look kind of like a motorcycle. The jets look like airplanes. And the reason is not only that I want to collect all those toys and still recognize the things, it's also because it's Kevin Flynn who creates all this. I mean, he is the actual designer, and he creates a parallel world in Tron. And this is why everything looks so familiar to us.
Where can I buy one of these light cycles?
You just get this laser gun, get de-rest into the Tron world, and I think there's a store around where you can get it. We built 2 replicas for the Comic-Con, for the fans, so there are 2 real replica light cycles out there, but they're not in the film. These were just as beautiful as showcases.
Okay, so that's the thing I gotta steal, apparently. I get my own light cycle.
Yeah, you have to be faster than me. I don't want to get my hands on one. Yeah.
Okay.
Filmens kvindelige hovedrolle spilles af Olivia Wilde, som for nylig blev kåret som verdens mest sexede kvinde af Maxim. Skuespillerinden er primært kendt for sit arbejde på hospitalserien House, men i Tron Legacy spiller hun computerprogrammet Quora, som hjælper Flynn-slægten med at bekæmpe Flynn Seniors onde alter ego, Clue. Og Wilde har åbenbart altid haft en forkærlighed for genren.
Yeah, I've always loved science fiction. I grew up watching Star Wars, Blade Runner, 2001, Star Trek.
You're a Star Trek fan?
Yeah.
Wow! Me too. Awesome! You're Trekkie as well. Cool. You know, unfortunately, it's not that often you get to see women kicking ass on movies, but in sci-fi you have Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica, you have Neytiri in Avatar, of course you have Sigourney Weaver in the Alien movies. Do you think that you could become a similar role model here in Tron?
I think Cora's worthy of it. I think she's a really fascinating character because she's not all toughness and sexiness and strength. She's also really intelligent and really curious and very unusual in her optimism despite, you know, incredible odds. So I think that she could definitely fight amongst those ladies. She's very much inspired by Ripley in terms of her capabilities, but she's different. She's not human, and she has certain quirkiness that separates her from the bunch, but I think she still is worthy of joining the league of tough women.
And you've also compared her to Jeanne d'Arc, which I find really interesting. How so?
Well, Joan of Arc was, of course, an unlikely warrior. She was a child who was also incredibly brave and would selflessly and compassionately throw herself into battle, willing to sacrifice her life for her cause. She seemed to have a sort of supernatural strength or protection around her. She was connected to a higher power, had a direct line of communication to a higher power, and that's exactly like Cora. Cora is in communication with the Creator. She is willing to lay down her life for him. And, you know, she has this childlike sensibility, despite the fact that she'll head straight into battle and be able to protect herself. So once I made the connection between Cora and Joan of Arc, the character really came together, and it very much influenced the way we designed her physically.
I kind of have to ask, now that you've worked with two of the best actors of their generation, you've also worked with Harrison Ford now, of course, in Cowboys and Aliens. They seem very different, where Bridges seems very calm and laid back, and Harrison Ford seems a little more intense. Is that how you would characterize them as well?
No, you know, I would call them both laid back. They're both somehow unscathed by Hollywood, both really cool guys, different in their technique and their style, but I really enjoy hanging out with both of them. They give me faith in Hollywood.
Jeff Bridges er selvfølgelig også tilbage i rollen som Flynn. Det er 28 år siden, at Bridges sidst spillede rollen, og man kan øjeblikkeligt mærke, at skuespilleren sætter stor pris på at vende tilbage til det særegne og smukke Tron-univers.
Sequels are kind of fun, you know. It's fun to revisit characters that you did in the past and see, you know, what happened to them 20, 30 years later. It's kind of fascinating.
Well, obviously your character, Kevin Flynn, is kind of this technical wizard. How comfortable are you yourself with technology in the real world?
Well, I have kind of a love-hate going, you know, with the thing. I spend a lot of time in front of the computer, you know, dealing with emails and that sort of thing. I don't look forward to going home. I haven't dealt with emails for about 3 weeks, so it's going to be a flood of that stuff. But I keep a website, you know, and that's a lot of fun. You know, it's kind of like having your own TV and radio station. And but I don't tweet or do Facebook or any of that stuff. I had to draw the line somewhere.
Mm-hmm. But you've talked about before that there have been other Tron legacy scripts, the Tron sequel scripts that have come up during the years.
Yeah.
Has it ever been close to getting off the ground?
I don't think so, no. I mean, I think Disney was very smart to wait until they got the right director, you know, to be at the helm of the thing, and also for the right story. So they were waiting for that. And also, they wanted to make sure that the audience was out there, that people wanted to see it, because, you know, very expensive undertaking. So when we showed it at Comic-Con, a big convention for science fiction type films, and we showed a little trailer of what it might be, and the audience went, you know, berserk, and they said, oh, okay, let's make this movie.
Cool. So there was never this sense that when you did the Comic-Con video that was maybe just a one-off?
Well, it would have been if we didn't get the reaction that we did. It would have been just that, but people seemed to enjoy it, so Disney said, yeah, we can make this. There's a market out there for it.
But how would you compare Kosinski to Steven Lisberger? Because the fascinating thing is that, like, the original Tron was one of his very first movies, and this is his first feature film. Right. Do you notice any similarities between their styles and how they work in the experience?
You know, their styles are quite different. But again, Disney was wise in including Steven Lisberger in this film very much. He was sort of the touchstone for Joe, our director, Joe Kosinski, and myself and everyone, because the world of Tron really came out of Steven's mind, you know. So to have him on board to keep us on track was very important.
In recent years, you've done Iron Man, you've done Tron Legacy, but these are kind of like only a few of those big Hollywood kind of potential blockbuster movies you've done. Do you enjoy that experience, or do you enjoy dabbling between those and the smaller movies?
Yeah, I like to do it all. You know, I like to just like I like to play the, you know, the good guy, the bad guy. You know, mix it up as much as I can. So it's a lot of fun to do both.
And do you want to focus on your music now? I hear that you have an album underway.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I just got through cutting the basic tracks with my old buddy T-Bone Burnett, and we're going to be putting an album out on Blue Note, or you know, sometime next year. So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
Husk, at du kan se vores anmeldelser af Tron Legacy i fredagens Filmz TV udsendelse, hvor vi også har et interview med den prisbelønnede islandske instruktør Dagur Kari, som står bag Det Gode Hjerte, der også har premiere i denne uge. Inden da kan du også læse anmeldelserne på hjemmesiden. På gensyn. Husk selvfølgelig, at du kan læse endnu flere artikler og anmeldelser på hjemmesiden, som du også kan diskutere i vores omfattende online forum.